Welcome to this traffic safety webinar sponsored by the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program. This is one in a series of webinars addressing topics of interest for traffic safety professionals. The series is co-hosted by the Institute for Transportation Research and Education at NC State University and the University of North Carolina Highway Safety Research Center. Today's topic is Data Tools for North Carolina Vision Zero, presented by Matthew Kuliani with ITRI. Matt is a research assistant and senior member of the Geospatial Analytics and Decision Management Group at ITRI. He specializes in web content, data analysis and visualizations, and technology solutions for public audiences. Matt supports the North Carolina Vision Zero website and has worked in traffic safety for more than 8 years. He is also a support staff member for the North Carolina Traffic Safety Conference Planning Committee. Matt, please share your screen now to begin your presentation.
Hello, everybody. Let's get started. So, my name is Matt Kuliani, and I work over at ITRI with Eugene, Kate, and Tracy, and I've been there for quite a while. And I am here today to talk to you about the North Carolina Vision Zero data tools that we have developed. We have been working on these data tools for many years. First started where we had some data tools for the North Carolina Highway Patrol in their commercial vehicle enforcement section. And then the field ops side of that was interested in seeing something as well. So we put that together and we needed a place to put it online. And so the whole NC Vision Zero thing started up. Since then, we've created a whole bunch of other tools so that we can share more about the data, better inform the public and other traffic safety professionals, stakeholders and such about the data that we actually play with all the day, all the time, every day. So let's see if we can get into it. Oh, I also wanted to say, welcome to my home. If you see any cats in the background here, feel free to be distracted and look at them. It's okay. Their names are Betha, Pepper, and Katie. This webinar is being recorded, so feel free to just stare at a cat if it shows up, okay? I don't mind. Once this webinar is finished, we're gonna save it, we're gonna put it online so that you can come back and see it later. So let's get started. One of the problems that everybody has with data is that it is giant. There's just so much complex stuff. Just looking at the pure raw data tells you nothing. There's also all of these things as well: complex, confusing, lost, expensive, tiresome. Man, really is. But it is also important, necessary, powerful, and most important, it's life-saving. It really does provide the information for those that have the ability to make the decisions, and it saves lives. So we're doing this with all the data, and we have a goal of 3 things. First, we need to simplify it. We need to take all this data and we need to make it so that it's easy to see in a very simple way. Giving you a complex thing isn't going to help very much because you're going to be spending most of the time just trying to use it. So second, we wanted to inform the public, the stakeholders, to take the data, to clean it up as much as we can so that everybody can view as much completeness of the data as possible while still trying to maintain as much accuracy as necessary. And we kind of want people to see how good things are going and how bad some things are going as well. Third, to analyze the data and come up with some conclusions that's going to help everyone out. To take the data, apply statistical analysis and generate conclusions, show some trends, how things are changing, try to answer the question why. Anything that we can get out of the data that's going to save a life. So we took some data that we had and then we asked and negotiated from other places such as the NCDOT, the DMV, the Highway Patrol, others. And we take that data and we've provided a handful of these powerful tools so that everybody can use. You can find all of them on the NC Vision Zero website under Data and Analytics. The tools are listed here, and at near the end of the webinar, I'll put a link in the chat so that you can go and play with it. Or if you'd rather go and just start playing with it now, I won't be offended. I think that'd be great. You can go to ncvision0.com and go under the data and analytics link, and you'll find everything that I'm going to be showing you today. So let's get into the first one, the safety dashboard. The purpose of it is to take the focus areas of NC Vision 0 that are important to traffic safety, such as pedestrian speeding, seatbelts, etc., and show how they're doing. It gives plain numbers of things such as fatalities, serious injuries, as well as showing the trend as to where they are going. It also tries to answer the questions when, where, why, and who. Best of all, it's been redesigned. It looks better. It has more data and visualizations, and is honestly easier to understand now. All right, so let's start with the demo. Safety dashboard. All right, here we go. In the safety dashboard, one of the first things that you're going to notice is that there are a whole lot of lines here. These lines are simple. It's the 5-year trend. So it starts in 2016, goes all the way to 2020. When you mouse over any of these points or lines, it's going to give you some data. So for example, this one says the year 2018 and how many persons are involved in these crashes. These other ones down here are those safety focus areas: young drivers, distracted, speed involved. When you mouse over any of these, it's going to better define what we mean by unbelted. So when we look into the data, it might say that it's none used, and we're looking at specific kinds of vehicles, and we're looking at the position of the people. So that's what we have is a very accurate count of who was unbelted during these crashes. Same with school buses, pedestrians. Every mouse over that you see, it's going to give you a little bit more information. Over here, we're going to have some filters. You can select how many of the years that we actually have data for, and you can select all of them, a few of them, whatever. The injury levels, if you need more information, you can mouse over that question mark there. These injury levels are very familiar to people in the traffic safety area, especially enforcement, to where the K, A, B, and C's are very meaningful to what those mean. K is killed, those are the fatalities. By default, it shows the fatalities. Then you can select the different locations. If you select any of these, I live in Durham, so I'm going to pick on Durham this entire time. Sorry, Durham. But you click on county here, and it's going to update this list down here so that I can actually select one or multiple counties. And I'm going to find Durham. There you are. And click apply, and you'll notice the data will change. The lines will not. Well, they don't change in numbers as you might think, but these change so that it's now only filtered by Durham. We can see that some things have been going up. If you look at the trend line over the past 5 years, you can see the actual line, but then this nice little red line here, that is the actual statistic trend line. That's how it's going over the past 5 years. You can even, if you want to see the formula, it's right there in the tooltip. You can see its slope and everything so that you know exactly how much, if you're interested in that kind of statistical stuff, you can see exactly how fast it's going up or going down, like here in motorcycle. School bus, that's doing nice, 0 for the past 5 years. That's what we like to see. It's vision 0. All right, and if you are interested in only certain reporting departments from all of these enforcement communities that we have data for, you can do that as well. Up here are tabs that will show you the different aspects of this visualization. The overall one, now I hope none of this takes a super long time to load, because that is always embarrassing when you give a presentation about some online tools. Anyway, here's the overall. It breaks down some of the stuff you see in Durham. Notice that it still has the same filter there for Durham. If I change the filter here or on any other of the other tabs, it stays, so that when you go to a new tab, it's going to have the same filters that you had on the last tab. If you don't want that, so if you're like, oh, I was just looking at Durham on the other place, I want to see everybody's, you have to change the filter. Apply, I clicked all so that it would be all the counties. You can also just go to state, since that's the same thing as all the counties, and it'll give you the exact same data. So here are all the persons involved by K killed. So these are fatalities in the year so far of 2021. But Matt, is this real-time data? No, it is not. There are many reasons why we can't show you real-time data. Most of it has to do with red tape. The other parts have to do with exactly how much information can be shared online and how to define that different kind of information. For example, if somebody is killed in a crash, that's a fatality. They don't have to necessarily be killed at the time of the crash for it to be considered a fatality of the crash. They could die an hour, a day, several weeks later because of the crash, and it's considered a fatality. If it was more real-time data, there would be a lot of updates that happen all the time, changing the data. So because of that, we have the data slightly delayed so that the reporting agency, like the DMV or the DOT, can take that data. They can be more final with it. We take it and then we put it into this visualization. So this is not meant, none of these tools are meant as real-time tracking data. All of this is for providing knowledge for everybody, getting all these tools out here for people to know how things are going, not how things went yesterday. How things have been going is the whole point of these data tools. So if we wanted to look at several of these things in this visualization, this shows you ranked by how many counties, who has the most out of all the counties. Mecklenburg has the most people, so calm down. Don't be too mad at them. They just got more people to deal with right here. These are the different kinds of road classes, the age groups, gender, as well as the contributing circumstances. Little note on that, on what I mean by contributing circumstances and why this one versus another one is going to be on top. It's because this is defined in the data that we get. The enforcement officers and others that take this data at the time of the crash, they have to figure out what was the most important thing that happened during that crash. What caused it the most? So you'll see things like this one, operated vehicle, erratic, reckless, that kind of thing. That is in the majority, 147 of them. That is, if they didn't do that, they may or may not have still crashed. In a lot of these reports, there are multiple contributing circumstances. The ones we are showing here are for driver one. And what that means in the data is that that's the most likely cause to have caused the crash. A lot of them totally make sense. Cross the center line. If they had just been staying in their lane, maybe or maybe not, they would have crashed. We don't really know. There might have been several different things. A lot of these crashes have multiple things going on at the same time that caused the crash. Maybe they were speeding and they didn't have a seatbelt and they crossed the center line. Maybe if they were just speeding without a seatbelt and hadn't crossed the center line, maybe they would have crashed, maybe not. But crossing the center line in that one case is the biggest cause of it. So now that you know what that means, please don't start complaining and saying like, oh my gosh, no, they were distracted and that's why they crashed. Why does it say they operated it in a crazy way or they were speeding? Because maybe that might not. Well, it's based on what the law enforcement officer did at the time. That's the data. They were there. That's what they found out. Moving on. All right, when. So for when, we're trying to answer the questions, basically when, what times were these happening? We can know how many numbers there are, but let's find out when they seem to be happening. This right here, the week at a glance, this is a Tadao chart, time of day, day of week. kind of one. So these are the various weekdays, and here's those days as well. You can mouse over it and you can see how many people were in crashes during that day. Weekday, Saturday, person involved 14. Here again are the contributing circumstances and top counties and the age groups as well down here. That can better tell you when these crashes are happening during the week and during the time of day. Where, we're trying to show exactly where they happened, of course. So that can be very important. If it happens in the middle of a curve, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Maybe it's the curve's fault, or intersections, or out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe somebody's speeding because they don't think anyone else is on the road. So we can see over here, the counties, the darker ones have more of the crashes. An over-under map, what that does is it shows which counties are above the average and which ones are below the average. Over the average, under the average, over-under map. And of course, for a point map. This is going to show the exact locations. Not every single one of them, because not every single one of them has an exact location. Some of these weren't able to be geolocated. Most of them were, so we were able to locate on the map exactly where this happened. But again, it's about data completeness, whether or not we can figure out exactly where they are when they look at this data. So you can, of course, zoom in, and you'll be able to, once it updates, you will be able to zoom in even further, and you will finally be able to get down to exactly where these various crashes did happen. Now, why? Why is going to have a lot of these contributing circumstances? Because a lot of what we can talk about is the why. Remember how I was saying that there are multiple contributing circumstances? Here we go. Here's for driver 1, driver 2, and the most harmful events that happen as well. A fixed object, versus a head-on or pedestrian or whatever. Those are the kind of harmful events that happened. Driver 1, driver 2, those are only 2 of the contributing circumstances. Of course, as I said, there could be many contributing circumstances to a crash. Who is going to talk about the people, the person level of the data, not the crash level, not the vehicle level, the person level. So when it loads up, I'll be able to show you. This is one of those times. Oh, there we go. Good. Whew. Age groups and gender, blue for male and pink for female. Now, before we get into any gender discussions, this is based on the data. We are not defining gender here at all. We are reporting what the data says. So this is the data that has to be collected at the scene of the crash. And in this case, these are all fatalities since we still have K killed being represented here. And of course, ethnicity still. That's what the data is showing. There's nobody making any specific judgments based on ethnicity. It's just what the law enforcement officers can determine at the crash. They will ask as much as they can to try to get the most complete and accurate information, but they are of course limited in everything that they can do. And finally, on our tab, we have percentage of crashes resulting in fatalities and injuries. So these are the various emphasis areas that we have, the safety focus areas that we have on NC Vision 0, alcohol, bicycle, unrestrained, older drivers, that sort of thing. And so we can see, based on this, how many actually happened. That's the bar. And the line is the percentage that resulted in a fatality or injury, so that we can see that for the lane departure, only about 1%, according to the line here, ended up like that into a fatality. You can change the injury levels, of course. And for this one, pedestrian, it makes sense that even though there were only 1,000 crashes, 13.1% of them resulted in a fatality or serious injury. It makes sense. I wish it wasn't so, but it does. And then of course, for geographic area, we can see which ones have a percentage of crash resulting in a fatality or injury and whose counties. Here's my Durham County. It looks okay. It's not 0, it has to be 0. Some of them that are great, you don't even see any data here. It's because it doesn't have any data. That is 0. So that's what we like to see. Okay, well, it's either that or the data is not fully complete. We do what we can with the data that we are given. All right, let's go on to the next one, the crash query tool, a beast. This really is a beast of a tool, and it is because it has so much data. It provides a whole lot of ways to look at the data. With the safety dashboard, we kind of focused it into the who, what, where, and how, and we kind of restricted it to just the safety focus areas that NC Vision Zero has been working with and working on. This one, we're throwing it all at you, okay? We're not just limiting it to what we define as a safety focus area, we're giving you everything. So we're trying to simplify it so that it's still a powerful tool for that hard to find stat, but there are some stats that the tool can't do. If you need to get really, really specific, you can contact me. You can contact us at NC Vision Zero, and we will get you that data. If you need a piece of data that these tools can't do, talk to me, email me, call me, whatever, I will get it to you. This isn't like restricted and you can only see this. Ask and you shall receive. So this might be like a great place if you wanted to find out how many pedestrian related crashes happened in Durham during a snowstorm. You can actually figure that out here. Well, first thing we need to choose when we look at this tool is we need to choose between 3 categories: crashes, vehicles, and persons. There is a difference. For example, for each crash, you may have 1 or more vehicles. For each vehicle, you will have 1 or more persons. So you need to figure out, when you're trying to start figuring out this data, what kind of data you want to look for is, are you looking for just the crashes, the one event that has multiple vehicles and multiple persons, maybe, or are you looking at the cars that are crashing and how many happen per crash, or are you looking at the persons? You know, like if you're looking for the number of fatalities, you should look at the person one, because the cars don't die and the crashes don't die, the people die. We don't have full complete data, so we go back as far as we can to 2000. Data before that, you will need to contact the DMV, the NCDOT, and anyone else that might be a little bit more specific with their data to see if you can get something farther back. I wish we could provide you all the data in the world since the beginning of time, but it doesn't exist. So sorry. And of course, we have it so that you can quickly filter by those safety focus areas so that you don't really have to always define unbelted. So if you're interested in unbelted or speeding or pedestrian, you can go ahead and say, I just want to see those. And then you can go deep into it. Now, let me show you what I mean. But first, we redesigned, excuse me, we redesigned this one as well for simplicity. And even better, we added tutorial videos. So you don't have to watch this video just to try to learn how to use it. All right, so let's go and get it going. Here's the crash query tool. First thing we need to figure out, crash data, vehicle, or person. So I don't know, I'll start with crash. By the way, tutorial right here. Here's the 2 videos. One is just basically what I'm going to go over. And another one is a scenario. It kind of gives you a goal and then takes you through it so that you can understand in a more direct way what you need to do. All right, crash data. Oh, here we go. Okay. By default, it is just going to show something almost random that we just chose. First, you can switch between this data up here. If you want to generate a PDF so that you can save it as an actual file for the data that you're looking at, you can. And if you'd like to download an actual table in Excel format, you can do that as well. Let me explain what a 2-way and a 1-way table and chart is. This one over here on the left is a 1-way table. What I mean by 1-way is it only has a single row or column, I guess you could say. There's only one form of statistic being broken down, and this way is crash severity. Again, there's filters up here, crash year, geographic area. The geographic selection makes sense when you go to like county, and it'll make it so that you can select between all the different counties. And then reportable crashes. If you're enforcement, you know what that means. And of course, data is available through this date. So if you're looking for stuff in 2021 in the crash query tool, you're not going to find it yet. And then, of course, here's what I'm talking about with those safety focus areas. So if you're only interested in pedestrians, you can just focus that here and then go about searching for the other stuff. Okay, so with the talking about the one-way table here, crash severity, okay, you have all these different kinds, the KA, B, Cs, no injuries, unknown, and null. Quick note on what null means. Null doesn't mean zero, it means nothing. There is also a difference between null, blank, and zero in data. If you're filling out a form to register your tires or something like that, and you leave out your last name and you're still able to submit the form, either that form records the data in the back end as blank, or maybe it just defaults a space in there, or it's a value called null. Computers do that. They can just say null, meaning nothing. Doesn't mean blank, it means nothing. Can be a little confusing if you're thinking about in the terms of text, but when you're talking about in the terms of zeros and ones, it is different. So when you see something like null, don't think, why didn't they put in the correct value? It's because this data isn't fully complete. We have 29 null values, but we still wanted to show the number so that it still totals up correctly. If we didn't show the null, it wouldn't show you the correct number and the total. So all of these null values are left in. We make sure it shows as null anyway. So a one-way table will show one statistic broken up into one way. Okay, so we're looking at crash severity. Here's all the crashes of 2020, and it's broken up in one way, the severity. Over here is a two-way table. It's broken up into two ways. We have this one, the row is the day of the week, Sunday through Saturday. And then the column here is speed involved crash. Was speed involved? Was it not involved? It's broken into two ways, the day of the week and speed involved. This one's only broken into one way, two way. Now, the one-way chart is basically a bar graph, and it shows you a little bit more how big of a difference that may actually show, in case that's what you need to see for like a PDF or for a presentation report or for some kind of media or communication that you're trying to send out. These colors also are conditional colors. So the big redder kind of ones are the bigger kind of values, and the lighter, the more cool kind of colors are, not as important. It's kind of like a heat map sort of thing. Down here, the total yearly crashes by area. So it's basically, this is where the crashes happen more. Same kind of thing, the hotter it looks, the more crashes, that kind of thing. And you can mouse over it and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I wanted to show you how much data we got in here. Here's the categories. We have 55 different categories. Okay, some of them you may not ever need to know. Is it on the ramp or a service road? That might not be something you need to know. Yes or no. It's different than no, because in the data, all they have to do is click a thing that says yes. If it's not clicked, supposedly it means null or no, but the way the computer records it is null. But that's the kind of stuff that we can do. Now, if we wanted a little bit more detail, we would go over to the two-way table. So if we wanted, let's say, accident type, and it's still got the speed involved crash, so it's going to show all the different accident types. If you're in law enforcement or in safety, traffic safety kind of stuff, you know what these mean. If you don't, contact me. I'll see what I can do to give you some great education. Otherwise, Google will probably tell you just as well as I could. And then you can break it up into whatever you want. If we actually wanted the accident type with the severity, we're going to break it up into that. Now, these are going to be bigger tables, and so we're going to have to scroll. So we have all these different ones. Here's the fatal, no injuries. You'll notice that some of them don't have values. That's because that's how the accident types are more defined. And then you'll have the numbers at the end. That's what the two-way table is for. So that's how we can do that. Now, there are a few other things that will work. If you click on one of the counties here, it will go ahead and filter it for you. So now we're just looking at Mecklenburg. If you click on it again, it'll just go right back to everything. A lot of these things throughout all these visualizations, if you can click on it, it'll usually filter everything else in there. When we look at crash vehicle or person data, it all looks the same. That's why I emphasize knowing, is it crash vehicle or person? You really got to figure that out before you start playing around with it, because you're going to get different numbers based on that. So if you really wanted to know how many people died, you need to go to the person data. If you wanted to know how many fatal crashes happened, you would go to the crash data. You'll get different numbers, but we didn't want the tools to look completely different from each other. So we made sure that they looked the same, but still want to make that clear. That's why we say this is a beast of a thing, and where most people get confused on any of these tools is on this crash query tool, because it is so much data. Now, saying how much data there is millions of crashes that we have in this powerful tool. And in a lot of these tools, you can access almost every crash there has been. So sometimes it may take a while. I just wanted to say that. Okay, now let's go to the next tool before I run out of time. Distracted driving dashboard. This one also has been redesigned because we wanted to add more data and more visualizations. There was a lot of interest in the distracted driving currently, or even for the past few years. Everybody is complaining about the kids on the phones. And this one shows a lot of location-based of where these crashes are happening, and we added in a whole bunch of characteristics: the driver, the vehicle, and the crash type. So let's head on over there and go back to view all my visualizations and distracted driving. Here we are. Again, we have all these kind of filters up here: the year of crash, the location, the reporting agency, the measures that we're looking for: fatalities, serious injuries, that kind of stuff. And by default, it's going to show fatalities and for the current year. Last data up here again. And here are the counties so far. If your county that you're looking for does not have a little mouse over thing, that means that's a 0. There's no data to look at there. And here's the trend of percentage of total of how it seems it's going. That's a statistical thing. If you need to know more, or you need to get further into it, give me a call or send me an email, and I'll guide you through it. Try to make it as simple as possible. I hate things super complicated, so I will make it as simple as possible for you. We get a glance. This is going to show you around what time they seem to be happening more. Makes sense that there aren't a lot at night, but it's more prevalent in the afternoon and the morning. And of course, road classification to make it a little bit easier to know, where are they doing it a lot? As it turns out, there's not a lot going on the interstates, but the local roads and the smaller roads, yep. Driver characteristics. This is about the people. What people have been being distracted? What are the statistics for these people? Age group and gender. Okay, so here's the various age groups, and these are the genders. This is the female gender. This is the male gender. Remember, again, this is based on the data. This is not us trying to assume gender. This is something they have to put in at the time of the crash. Whether or not people have assigned their different genders in different ways, this is up to the enforcement officer and what's going on in the crash area. Ethnicity, same thing. And the driver crash characteristics, where they were. And for like unbelted and the seating position, the original person that was involved in the crash, the number of people in the vehicle, and the restraint, what kind of restraints were also used in there. So this is just for distracted driving. That was at the driver level. At the vehicle level, we've got things that are more about what kind of vehicle, normal vehicle or commercial motor vehicle, and the subtype, passenger, sport, utility, pickup, that kind of stuff. The vehicle maneuver that's happening, going straight, and then turning, that kind of stuff. And whether the airbag was deployed. Crash at the crash level, we're going to see more of the general stuff that we're used to seeing, but of course a little bit more in the actual interesting data that we found as well. So alcohol involved and an ambulance required. That's a lot. The nose on an ambulance being required on a fatality, I think you can use your imagination to understand why. And of course, a hit and run, yes or no, that kind of stuff. Even light conditions during the crash, the most harmful event that happened during the crash, the weather that was going on, and of course, the estimated speed at which the people were going. So a lot of people wanted a lot more various kinds of information for the distracted driving data, so we delivered. Commercial vehicle crashes dashboard. This is specifically for the commercial vehicles, and those are defined in many different ways by many different people, but the whole point of it is for the people who need to deal with these trucks. These, either the big trucks or the dump trucks or the smaller trucks. I don't mean commercial vehicles as Avon Lady's personal Prius. Technically, that's for commercial industry, but that's not the kind of commercial vehicles we're talking about. We're talking about those big transport vehicles, the ones that when they have to emergency brake, they can take out 2 or 3 cars because it honestly just takes that much time to slow down that much weight. Physics. All right. Since the CMVs are normally only enforced by the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, this tool is more trooper focused than the other tools that we have shown so far. So if you're familiar with how the Highway Patrol troop and troopers are divided and work among the states, this tool is pretty good in telling you more about it. Now, I also have to say that this is more of a snapshot into what the North Carolina Highway Patrol commercial vehicle enforcement section has in terms of some kind of analysis tools. We provide a giant suite of analysis tools for them over at coverlab.org, and that's all locked up. You have to have a login for it, but this is just like a small amount of what we show from over there. So I'll go over here and find it. Commercial vehicle, there we are. Last date of data available. Notice a lot of them are 730. That's about a month old. That makes sense. More filters. We are very familiar with it. You can notice that the report agency is null, other, or SHP. That's State Highway Patrol. So as you can see there's a trooper thing. Location, it's troop or troop district. That will help a lot of the troops. And so you can have A through H for the troops. Again, very similar to some of the other tools, fatalities through the injuries, and PDO, property damage only, if you didn't know. And where are they happening? Here's these fatalities happening here. Here are the various ones specifically where they are. So for the county and for the actual point where they're happening, here's the trend of yearly from 2007 all the way through 2021 so far. So if you wanted it to be more monthly, we can change it to that, and it might make a little bit more sense as to exactly when that kind of stuff is happening per month. Now, we got to give it a second because this is from 2007 all the way to 21. And so there are certain little bumps that you can see that happened in certain things. Something happened there. Most in the past, what's that, 14 years? Road classification. There are a lot of trucks on the interstate. So there's a lot of stuff on the interstate, but also in the US. Not that many trucks on the local roads, but still it's happening. Week at a glance, another time of day, day of week. So you can see what time they're happening. It happens mostly during the daytime when the trucks are, when the people are working while they can see. But there's still some nighttime ones when the drivers are trying to go through the nighttime. And then why are they occurring? Now, these contributing circumstances are separate. When a CMV crash happens, sometimes it's between two CMVs, and sometimes it's between a CMV and a little tiny vehicle. Who's at fault is always going to be, that's for the lawyers and the enforcement people to decide. But from the data that we have, we can say whether or not contributing circumstances was based on the vehicles or for the commercial vehicles. So for this one, what it's showing is for the vehicle, which is in the lightish blue teal color. That's how many happened in the crash that were based on vehicles that crossed the center line versus the CMVs that crossed the center line. So trying to show a causation thing based on if it was a big truck or a smaller vehicle that was, I don't want to say cause, but cause of the crash. All right, so that's just a simple one for the public to go ahead and check out how commercial vehicles are looking throughout the state or troop or whatever geographical location. But if you are a highway patrol trooper that needs a lot more detail into commercial vehicle enforcement, talk to your supervisors. I will be able to give you access to the Cover Lab analytics. That gives you way more detail than you probably need. Vision Zero maps. This is being redesigned. This is going to get much better. It's a little older, not the data, the platform, but it is still awesome at giving location data. So let's head on over to that. I'm noticing my time ticking down, and I want to give any time for questions. I don't want to go way over time, So with this one, I would suggest opening in a new tab if you can, because it's a map. You want to see more. So open it up so it's more full screen. You get to pick a location. Okay, so if you just want the entire state, you just click state. If you want to see your county, I'm going to pick on Durham again. So let's go find Durham. There you are. And you can pick a date range. You can either be very specific as to the date, or you can just say previous whatever. So let's go with previous year. You can quickly pick between fatalities, serious injuries, or both. And then if you're very interested in the work zone intersection of railroad, and then press go. Now, these dots look really small. You can, of course, zoom in. And when you click on one of these dots, you'll get a small amount of information. Now, some of this doesn't make a lot of sense to some people because they're not that interested in the crash ID, but some of it does add a little bit more information. This crash type is a fixed object. The driver factors is it's a lane departure kind of one. And there are the NCDPS crash reports for all of these. If you click open, you'll be able to see one of those. Clicking on any of these others, you'll be able to see these were close together. So when I clicked on them, it's asking me, which of those two you want to see. So it'll show me there. And I click on that, you can see it's an unbelted and a pedestrian. I don't think the pedestrian was unbelted, but it was. I mean, how would a pedestrian be belted, right? Here's a side swipe, same direction alcohol. Let's see if this one actually has a crash report. That is, nope, not that one. Not for that. Let me move that out of the way so I can try to find one that actually does have a viewable crash report. Not that one either. Now, some of these are not viewable because either there's still litigation or there's something that is preventing it so that it can't be a certified report. And if it can't be a certified report, maybe the data thing is backed up, or you would have to call the DMV to actually find out if there is something weird going on. Some of these are just lane departures, and so we're not getting any good hits going on here, but let's see. There's an unbelted lane departure. I am striking out, aren't I? Right in the middle of the webinar, right? All right, hold on. I was looking at some unbelted earlier, and I did find, there we go. So here's the crash reports that are associated with that one specific one. Click on one, and you'll be able to see the crash report for that actual crash. Now, some of the data has been redacted. That is to stop any personal identity kind of stuff, PPI. But you can even see, I mean, it shows that this person came up, hit that one slid over there, it turned around, hit another car. So not a good thing. It can even show if there are any kinds of charges, or if anyone was arrested, or who was involved, that kind of stuff, what kind of vehicles. So if you really need to know that kind of stuff, they may have an actual crash report for you to view through NC Vision Zero Maps. Now, you saw me over here click on a driver factor so that I could see more of a specific kind. So if I wanted to know if there was an unbelted, I click on unbelted, it changed it. So only the unbelted are showing. If I wanted speeding, now I can see the ones that are speeding related, distracted, lane departure, all of those things. If you wanted multiples, alcohol, speeding, lane departures, it'll show you ones that have multiples. Like this one has 2 of them. So alcohol and lane departure. So I have alcohol selected here, lane departure over here. So if you're interested in somebody who had alcohol related speeding and they departed from their lane, now you can see exactly where those are. So instead of having to click through all the tiny little links, trying to find all the tiny little points, trying to find, who's got what, because that might take a while if you're looking at the state over the past 10 years, you can quickly search through them that way. If you need to change the dates, if you're like, no, that's too much, I just want the past 3 months, there we go. There's only a few, so it's easier to find. Okay, let's move on. Target tracking dashboard. I'm not going to show you this one. Why? Because it requires a login. It's the only one currently that requires a login. It is restricted to people from the North Carolina Highway Patrol and GHSP, the Governor's Highway Safety Program. It's not because they're uncomfortable with you seeing the data. That's not it. It's more that it's really meant for their own internal purposes. So this is where they can access it without having to find some arcane link and an old email from 10 years ago. It's here. We are saying that it is visible, that it is locked because there is a lock. There's a little lock icon that we have on it so that you can tell whether or not it will require a login. But what it does show is the State Highway Patrol has various safety plan focus areas. They make a safety plan and they want certain focus areas to be part of that plan. They want to focus on these certain things. It is important for them to work on these certain things, like maybe unbelted or alcohol related speeding. And it shows the trends, how it's going. You can see a little picture of it right there in the tooltip, or not tooltip, thumbnail picture of it. You can see some performance tracking filters, all that kinds of stuff. And there's always some kind of metric that has to be met in these goals. So their goal may be to just simply reduce all fatalities, or their goal may be to reduce the number of speeding crashes or speeding fatalities, or both. Trying to do that. It also has maps, contributing circumstances, trends, another Tadao chart, and a filter for the reporting agency. It is like a report card. They can see how they're doing throughout the year to say whether or not they're doing really well, how the trend is going so far. If it's getting better, then keep doing the same thing. If it's getting worse, maybe take a look at the policies or the location or anything like that. But it will give them an idea of how they're doing, what they need to work on, or if what they're doing right now is going great. There's another blown up version so you can see kind of what the visualization looks like. I blurred out some of the numbers. The seatbelt usage dashboard, it's new. And it's based on a seatbelt usage data that was gathered from the NC Observational Survey of Seatbelt Use. This is a research thing that's collected through observations statewide, and it generates a county level seatbelt usage rate. We've put it into a visualization so that the public can view it and simply understand the results. There we go. Seatbelt usage. Here we see all the counties. The darker they are, the worse that they have done in the observational records of this research. The cooler and bluer that they are, the better percentage they are. So the top and bottom counties, Tyrell County, well done, 96.5% of all observed cars had seatbelt use. Madison, got to work on it perhaps. This is also based on, there's combined seat use driver side or right front passenger side. Those were the ones that were being observed. And if you need more information, here's the information about that research and a link to find out even more information. There are county groupings. So the counties that are used to calculate the statewide rates for NHTSA, or the rate type. This is the combined, if you wanted to see the driver's seat belt use rate, it's slightly different versus the passenger side. So if that makes a difference for what you're actually looking for in the seatbelt data, there you go. This is county level. And the child passenger safety dashboard is also new, CPS. CPS folks really would love for everybody with a child to come out and find one of their technicians, instructors, any kind of staff or support stuff that they have, and please come out and check your passenger stuff for your children, like child seats, if they're installed correctly, what you need to know about where you install a child seat, all that kind of stuff. I have 2 kids. I highly recommend it. I did, and I had apparently done it wrong. So, and I thought I was a smart person. They are smarter. So I suggest going to here, and it will help you find a CPS tech, and it will show how much support your county has in terms of child passenger safety. All right, CPS safety dashboard. This one is showing how many and where the NC technicians and instructors are by county. Wake has 208, Buncombe has 221, and it shows broken down, how many there are. If you wanted to show the rate of CPS per population, looks more like Edgecombe and Henderson are doing enormously well on how much CPS support those counties actually have. That's great. Proxies and instructors, that's where they are located, and the checking station locations, how many there are in various counties. These are the stations where you can just drive up your car to it, and they can check your car. They can check your car seat, your child's car seat, to make sure everything's great. So you don't even have to really make that many appointments or anything. If you want a list of where they are, we have links on that so that you can just click those links. If you wanted to compare between the 2 counties, so here's Mecklenburg and Wake, but I want to pick on Durham. So here's Durham and Wake, and you can see how many there are of the various kinds of CPS support that they have. The dashboard overview is just it gives you the information about what this means, what a CPS technician is, what a proxy instructor, all that kind of stuff. And of course, you can find out almost everything about, probably actually everything about child passenger safety laws over at buckleupnc.org. All right, back to my visualizations here and my slides. That's all the tools that we currently have on there. We are going to have more. we are going to continually keep updating the ones that are too complicated or not used enough, maybe because the data that people are looking for is not there. And so we'll try to expand it. We're going to try to keep making things simple. But some of the things that we are doing is we're currently talking and in negotiations with various stakeholder organizations. Some of them are research-based projects. So we're looking into data from several research projects. A great example is that seatbelt use one that I showed you earlier. That one comes from a research grant whole thing based on I believe the GHSP granted something, and ITRI has been doing it for several years. So we worked with the people over at ITRI who have done the seatbelt usage thing, and we made a visualization for the public. So not only did they deliver on their research, but they also said, hey, let's make a viz so that the public can see it too. And so we did. And finally, we are going to be doing some mobile device development. Currently, a lot of the stuff is a little bit too hard to see, in my opinion, and in a few other designers' opinion, too hard to see on a mobile device. So we need these things to be a lot more mobile friendly. So we're going to be having to do some redesigns so that when you're viewing these tools on a mobile device, it's a lot better and it's a lot easier to understand. And it's a lot closer. You don't have to like stare really close to your phone or try to zoom in to look at a certain point or map. It can get kind of confusing. So we're going to get that, and that's going to take a lot of development, but we are going to get it done. Now, I'm almost out of time. So there's my information. Thank you for listening. And if you didn't, that's okay. It's been recorded and we're going to put it online, and you can go back to the highway, I know everything by acronyms. So the conference site, let's just say that, the North Carolina Traffic Safety Conference site, and the training and workshops things, it'll have the webinars there and listed under them. If you click on them, they'll expand and you'll be able to see the videos. And in some cases, you'll actually have the slides that you can view yourself. So if you didn't listen, go there after this thing has been published, and you'll be able to review this over and over if you like. I don't know if any cats showed up behind me. I'm sorry if they didn't and you really like cats. Sorry. In any case, there's my contact information. Please contact me. If you have any data needs, if the tools that we provide don't give you the data that you want, contact me. Call me, email me, and I will do everything I can to get you that data. It is important that you get that data. We will get you that data. Okay, thank you. Take it away, Eugene.
All right, Matt, terrific job.
Thank you.
A lot of great information. I'm going to leave Matt's contact information up on the screen for a little bit longer. And Matt, if you would, you mentioned you were going to put a link in the chat for folks.
Yes.
So if you'll do that, we are going to run a little bit past our normal 1 hour out time. So if you do have to leave now, we understand. But when you get the link to the recording, just look at that and scan forward till you get to the end, because I'd like to get to as many of these questions in Q&A as possible, because they're great questions.
Awesome.
So again, if you guys open up the chat function right now on your screen, you can see the links that Matt has put there in chat for you.
There you go.
So Matt, first question in Q&A, a very observant participant noticed that in your distracted driving dashboard, the data was updated well into 2001, but the crash data dashboard only had data available through 2020. Why the difference?
Based on where we get it and based on their policies on completeness. So the crash data will sometimes be further back. We won't have it as up to date as possible. Now, for things like the crash query tool, it is very important for it to be complete. So it may be updated much later. So updating the crash query tool is really more for research purposes. So if you're trying to get research that is more current, call me, talk to me, email me, and I will get you what you need. But if you're just needing to do research for like an entire year, or if you need just those kind of cross sections, that's what the crash query tool is for. Some of the other crash data, like in the safety dashboard, does have 2021 data, crash data in it. The crash query tool, I believe, is only up to 2020.
Matt, thanks for that. Next
Sure.
question, it says, now that we in here in North Carolina can access our info, do any other states that are similar in population, for example, have a comparable system so that we can compare our state's data to theirs? And if so, do you know which states and how can we access it?
Yes, I know some of them. There are a lot of states that have this kind of stuff. Not a lot of them have this specific kind of visualizations. One in particular has really specific, Florida. If you want to get all the information that you possibly could in almost real time, they have set that up. They have set it up so that the public can see certain things, and then all the different kinds of traffic safety people, including enforcement, can see a whole lot more in almost real time, including videos and live videos and streams that are coming from the various traffic cams and stuff like that. So Florida is the first place I would go because they, I believe, have the most complete kind of picture and the most data that you can find. Also, I would check in other places like Maryland and go for the big states as well. The big states will have the most money that they can put into funding. Go for Texas and California and places like that. If you want more specific places, like in certain not counties, but in certain cities and stuff, you look for places that have a Vision Zero program. If they have their own Vision Zero program, then they're going to have some really good data for you to check out. Go check out New York, check out Charlotte, that kind of place.
Thank you for that, Matt. Next question. This one came in fairly early when you were looking at the first dashboard, and the person asking it actually figured it out after by trying it out. But it was a good question. So in your first dashboard, how do you exclude the current year from the visualization to get a more accurate trend line?
Sure. Let me go ahead and go to there. So the safety dashboard, I believe, was the first one that I looked at. And once it loads, the filters on the, I think it's the left side on this one, will allow you to choose which years to select. Over here, you can, from 2007 to 2021, you can choose how many ever or all of them. Let's not do all of them right now because we're low on time. But you can choose any of them and switch to a different day. Now, note that these are 5-year trend lines, okay? And so these trend lines are going to still show the past 5 years. But if you want to see all the various information, that is not just the past 5 years only. That's why you would go to like overall and the various other places. It's still going to be set on 2015, since that's the one that I checked in the filter up here. Yep, see, still 2015. And then you'll have different kinds of information throughout the thing. So I'm glad they found it on their own. I think that's awesome that somebody was completely distracted doing it on their own. I find that wonderful.
Thanks, Matt. Another question. If the, this was referring to the, when you were talking about the NC State's targeted traffic dashboard that was locked, the person would like to know, in general, how is the data on that website used by the State Highway Patrol to assist them in targeted traffic enforcement decisions? I know you're not a member of the Highway Patrol, so don't want to talk too far out of your wheelhouse, but
no, it's okay.
Yeah,
we work very closely with the Highway Patrol. I won't speak for them, but I can speak for what they may have told me. The target tracking dashboard is used as a report card. They need to know how they're going with their goals. They set up a safety plan, and in that safety plan, they say what numbers they're actually going for. Now, when I say going for and they have a fatality number, they're not trying to make sure they get that many fatalities. The goal is to be under that number of fatalities. So they do a quick statistical thing, figure out what their goal wants to be. Maybe they want to be under by 20%, 10%, 5%, whatever they want. That is part of their safety goal. And so we take that number, that data, and we put it in there so that when they go to the target tracking dashboard, they can see based on how it's going so far that year, whether or not they're on the trend to go beyond the goal, to reach whatever goal, or if they're doing great. That way they can look at their own policies, right? So if they got a few wolf packs going out there and they're trying to catch a lot of speeding people, then if it looks like it's doing great, if they're speeding targets, if it looks like they're being met and they're reducing a whole lot of speeding going on, great, keep doing that. If it doesn't seem to be making a difference, maybe they need to take a look at something else, maybe add just more, or maybe it needs to be in a different place. They can come and talk to us. We can give them a lot more data about where that might help them with their planning, but they'll know whether or not their plan is currently working or if they might need to change something. That's what it's for.
All right, thank you, Matt. And I've got one more question in Q&A before we wrap up. The person asked if I wanted to compare my city to other cities with the same populations in the state. Can I do that, and how?
Yes, there is not a quick way currently on the tools. So if there are exact cities that you want to do a comparison for, you can either just do it manually. So cities that you already know of that are around the same, yes, you can click on those and you can see the crash data, the injury, the fatality data, all of that kind of stuff. You can see that, and then you would have to manually check. You can take screenshots. If it has a download or a print kind of option, let me go ahead and show you that there are ways of doing that. Here in the safety dashboard, down here at the bottom, there are these extra little links down here where you can do stuff to the visualization. Download, for example, you can download a straight image. You can download a crosstab, PDF, a PowerPoint even of it. So we won't let you get the full data because that is not what the DOT and DMV want us to be doing. If you want the full data, go to them. But if you just want some of that, you can get the images and crosstabs and stuff like that, and then you can compare it that way. But what you're really looking for is a visualization where you can choose 2 different or multiple cities that will then quickly in one shot show you all the differences. Send me an email. Okay, we'll see if we can make something like that happen. If there's only like one time you need that to happen, then we can create something for you that is just like that single snapshot for you, and then you can use it in whatever plan you need. If instead what you need is something reoccurring that you need to get going, email us. We will come up with something for you. If it's okay for it to be shared online on the Vision Zero data and analysis page, boom, that's a whole new tool that we'll have up there. We, of course, have to talk to the data stewards that contain that kind of data to see if that's okay with them, because we are using their data. And if they're doing something on their own site similar to that, they're not going to be all happy because they don't want competition. I don't want to say it like, we're trying to take their users, since we're not. We're here to provide different kinds of knowledge. But if that's okay with them, boom, that's a whole new tool. But if it's not okay for the public to see it, we can still create a tool for you for your specific use. And we can actually lock it down, and then you can use it for whatever you need. We are here to help. We're not restricting you only to the things that we have. If we can create it, we will create it for you. Thank you.
Okay, Matt, thank you again. Well, listen, I appreciate so many folks staying with us a little past our normal out time.
Thank you.
That is all the time we have for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our closing slides here, Matt. And again, I want to thank you again for a terrific presentation and for everybody who joined us today. If you do have additional questions for Matt, and I suspect Matt's probably generated a lot of interest, make note that in the follow-up email that you will receive will have Matt's contact information that was displayed earlier on screen. You'll be able to email him directly with any additional questions. Before you leave the meeting, feel free to use the Q&A a few minutes more. If you've got any suggestions on how we can improve on our webinar series, including any future topics you'd like to learn about. For example, because Matt went into a real deep dive, didn't go into went at a high level across a lot of detailed tools. If you think it would be helpful to have a deeper dive into one or more of those tool sets, let us know that in the Q&A, and we can program a future webinar on that topic. So again, as I mentioned, following today's webinar, you'll receive an email. In that email, along with Matt's contact information, will be a recording link. So be sure to watch for this if you want to play back any of the great information that Matt shared with you today. Email will also include a link if you'd like to request a participation certificate. If you need that for your training records, be sure to use that link specifically in the email to request a certificate. If you are a professional engineer, you can earn 1 PDH for participating in today's webinar, and there'll be an additional link for PEs so you can complete your NC Bells evaluation as a part of your continuing education. Please note, if you happen to be watching this recording right now and not the live presentation, that we are only able to provide certificates for folks who participated in the live presentation, not just for watching the recording. We invite you to join us again for other traffic safety webinars planned for this series. So please continue to check our website at the link on your screen for a list of any upcoming webinars. At the website, you'll also find information about the next North Carolina Traffic Safety Conference and Expo. We hope you will plan to attend that conference, and we invite you to propose topics for presentation. Perhaps you would like to see a topic at the conference about all of these cool data visualization tools. So there's a link on the website for presentation proposals. Click on that and submit your ideas if you'd like to see particular topics presented at the conference. And with that, I want to thank everybody again for participating in today's webinar. And until next time, goodbye for now.